You've been lied to, told that you're just a man with an addiction, that your urges are some kind of illness, that you're sick, weak, broken. Every time you relapse, they tell you to shame yourself, to isolate, to crawl back into a corner and wait to try again. But what if I told you that the real problem isn't porn? It's not masturbation. It's not even lust. The real problem is much deeper. You're not addicted to porn. You're spiritually starving. Let's be honest. No man wakes up at age 7 dreaming of one day watching porn for 3 hours a night. It starts small. A curious glance, a moment of boredom, a craving for something. And then one day, it becomes a habit. You go back to it when you're stressed, lonely, angry, bored, or just plain lost. But that's not addiction. That's starvation. You're using porn to fill a hole that porn was never meant to fill. The truth is, you're not just seeking pleasure. You're seeking meaning. Look around. We live in the most connected generation ever, yet men are lonelier than they've ever been. We have instant access to pleasure, but almost no access to purpose. Our souls are screaming for something higher, something real, something sacred. But all we're offered is dopamine. Click here, tap this, swipe that. And when you finally feel disgusted with it, when you finally look in the mirror and see the version of you that's been robbed of his fire, you don't need a 30-day dopamine detox. You need a reawakening of the spirit. The reason porn has such a grip on so many men isn't because it's too powerful. It's because you've been made powerless. You've been cut off from the masculine force that used to define men. You've been told that your hunger is dangerous, that your desires are shameful, that your masculinity is toxic. And so instead of channeling that raw masculine power into something sacred, building a family, a mission, a kingdom, you leak it out onto a screen. Porn isn't just pixels, it's a mirror that reflects your inner emptiness, a mirror that shows you what happens when a man forgets his purpose. That's why it hurts so much after. Not because of guilt, but because deep down, you know you were made for more. You know that what you just did wasn't love. It wasn't sacred. It wasn't even real. It was a cheap substitute for intimacy, connection, and spiritual union. And every time you give in, your soul whispers, "This isn't it." But here's where the lie creeps in. The lie that says, this is who you are. That you're just a compulsive, addicted man who will always relapse. That's where they've got you trapped. Because if you believe you're addicted, you'll spend your whole life trying to fix yourself. But if you realize you're actually starving, you'll stop trying to fix the hunger and start feeding your spirit. So how do you feed your spirit? How do you reconnect with the real version of yourself? The one who doesn't need porn because he's already full. First, stop running from your masculine energy. It's not the enemy, it's the key. That drive you feel, that fire inside, it's meant to be directed, not suppressed. Start seeing your sexual energy as sacred fuel. It's your divine gift, not your curse. When you retain it, when you transmute it, when you use it to build, create, protect, you start becoming dangerous in all the right ways. That's when the glow returns. That's when people start noticing the change in you. Not because you're celibate, but because you've finally reclaimed your power. Second, get serious about your spiritual diet. Most men think they need more motivation, more self-discipline, more hacks. But you don't need another productivity trick. You need connection to God. Start praying. Start journaling. Start meditating in silence and asking the deeper questions. Why am I here? Who do I want to become? What am I building? When you open your spirit to those questions, you begin to awaken a hunger far stronger than lust, the hunger to become who you were born to be. Third, you need brotherhood. This is not a solo mission. You can't battle a spiritual war alone with a browser history full of secrets. Surround yourself with other men who are on the same path. Men who are fighting the same battles. Men who will call you out, lift you up, and hold you accountable to a higher standard. You'll be surprised how quickly your life transforms when you stop isolating and start connecting with warriors. And finally, reframe the entire battle. Stop calling yourself an addict. Stop waiting for the next relapse. Start telling yourself the truth. I'm not addicted. I'm spiritually starving. And today I choose to feed my soul instead of my flesh. That single shift in identity changes everything. You're no longer a man trying to quit porn. You're a man on a mission to awaken his soul. And men on a mission don't crumble to pixels on a screen. They rise like fire. I'll say it again. Shift your identity. You see, the reason this message isn't being preached in schools, on platforms, or by mainstream voices is because a spiritually awakened man is dangerous. A man who's not enslaved by pleasure. A man who holds his seed. A man who walks with God. That kind of man cannot be manipulated. He cannot be marketed to. He cannot be silenced. He doesn't need porn, parties, pills, or approval. He walks in truth, and truth is rebellion in a world built on lies. So let them call this message extreme. Let them call it judgmental. Let them scoff and scroll away. But if you've made it this far, if something inside you is nodding, if you feel that flame rising in your chest, you know this is truth. Not because I said it, but because your soul remembers it. You're not meant to live in cycles of shame. You're not meant to be a slave to lust. You're meant to lead, to protect, to love with power, to build something eternal. Porn is not your weakness. It's the enemy's counterfeit. But now you know better. Now you've been reminded. Now you remember who you are. This channel, this movement, this brotherhood. It's not just about quitting porn. It's about rebirth, about reclaiming your masculinity, about realigning with the divine. If you're done playing the victim and ready to rise, then you've found your home. Stay locked in, and let's feed our spirits together. Because the world doesn't need more men numbing themselves. It needs more men on fire. If you made it until here, leave a crown emoji in the comments. I'm doing a little experiment, and I want to see how many of you reach the end and are truly willing to finish what they start. And remember, live with honor or die a coward. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and stay strong.